Yeah, so I was thinking about this week and just wanted to discuss in a bit more detail. I think was around play styles, which I kind of like.
Mhm.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit before, just a tiny bit about it, and really it boils down to the aggressive play styles versus kind of like I don't want to use the classic
I was
label
gonna say, are we are we gonna go there? Are we gonna use Rat and
because it's
Chad?
different, right? Because it's different because like
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continuing development of the game, patch notes analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I dabble in content creation, video editing, and streaming.
And I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber bringing mainly beginner and intermediate guides to the community to help players improve their gameplay, knowledge, and confidence. And welcome to the show. All right,
Man,
man.
that was so much better. I
That's
love
a
that
lot better.
intro.
That's a lot
Yeah,
better. It's a lot better.
yeah, that was great.
So, how have you been?
But
I
how
asked
you?
you super
Yeah,
quick. I asked you super quickly how your stream was going. You were playing labs, were you?
yeah,
Today?
I did 2 labs raids, and I didn't get hacked. I didn't get
Okay.
desynced. I managed to kill 1 PMC the first raid, and then ran my ass to the extract. And then the second raid, I killed 3 raiders and ran my ass to the extract. And the extract. It was good, dude. I'm still like I got lost my second time because I spawned in this place I never spawned before, and I literally did a circle
Mm-hmm.
within like the first 30 seconds. Um, but yeah, it was good. I'm excited to play more labs. It's just I gotta. It's really hard because like I don't think I profited any money
Oh,
on
really?
those. Like the first raid where I killed the
Yeah,
PMC,
the
probably
PMC one
not.
probably not. Yeah, that's probably fair
Yeah,
enough.
because like yeah, I got a zeroed out Karund,
Ugh.
but yeah, and then it's like yeah, I got a HK and 1 mag, and he had 995s. I really don't use 995s, and some armor or like his helmet, but he really didn't have anything. You know what I mean? All the money's in Fountain Raid, and I was like, there was like gunshots going on around me, and I'm like, and I don't want to risk it. I was like, let me just get out. But probably
Yeah.
the Raider one, I made money for sure.
See, the Raider one's probably okay because the thing is they have like a ton of grenades on them and all of that stuff, right? And
Yes,
like the
yeah,
rigs and everything, you can stack some nice rigs together and things. I've hardly played any labs at all. This
yeah.
this
It's scary.
patch, I hardly played any, and I want to go back and do it, but I think it's just like I'm kind of like pick and choosing like where I go and what I do, and it's something that I'm going to go to at some stage, but just not like right this minute. Like the labs keycards are like even more expensive now, I think.
Yeah, they're more expensive.
Um,
So
so that kind of hurts as well. When did you end up in the basement? Just out of interest, like when you were lost.
the first time I was in like a part of the basement that I don't know. Like I know the part where you call the elevator, like
Yeah,
the one that everyone knows, I guess, where it's like in the long hall with the pipes.
yeah, yeah. The medical
Anyways,
elevator one. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Now there are bits of that when I was kind of like learning the map properly, uh, you have to like go and there's the bit up. It's kind of the if you look at the map, the like typical map that's on the wiki and stuff. It's like the
Mhm.
kind of the northeast side,
Mhm.
which is like near the sewer tunnel bit, but like there's a whole
Yeah,
bunch of rooms
that's
that like don't really have anything in them and stuff, and it's like
yeah.
you have to kind of work your way around a few bits, and there's quite a few circular routes through there, which I think you found out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I spawned is like the north because I made my way to like the sewer part where it's like you can run down the sewer tunnel to
Yeah.
like the extract. So I was like, okay, now I know I'm in the corner. So I just gotta like wrap my way to the elevator and try to farm raiders. Uh,
No, that's good.
have you have you played any Tarkov this week?
I have, yes. I've played a little. Well, to be fair, I've actually hardly played anything because I've just been super, super busy.
Yeah.
But I played a little bit. And I played. I actually went back to Woods. I really haven't played Woods at all this wipe, and
Hmm.
I still kind of stick to the bit that I know. But yeah, I played a little bit of Woods because I had to go and get some. I was doing Junkie, I think, for Jaeger.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I was going to do that one, and it was okay. I got a couple of scav kills, but then I ended up in this like ridiculous like there's 3 minutes left on the clock like fight with some dudes, and there was one guy and I killed him, and but then there was some, and I was like, oh, let me go loot him. And then I was like, actually, there might be somebody else. And then sort of hit by a rock for a second, and I was like, oh, there's the footsteps. There was actually someone else. Oh my goodness! And I was playing around with this like SR-25, and I think basically what happened is that karma came to me because I always kind of rag on 762 BP a bit, and it's every time I say it, people are like, "No, it's really good." Blah blah blah. Blah. And
Mhm.
yeah, someone killed me with 762 BP through a slick. So I think it was karma coming back to bite me. Just like, no, this round's good, you know. Um, I couldn't see the guy. I genuinely just couldn't see him. Like we kept
Yeah.
flanking, flanking, flanking like crazy, and he was like doing some crazy flanks too. I think really what I should have done is just like run really far away. I kept trying to kind of engage him in close
Mhm.
combat, but I should have just gone really because I had like a voodoo, and so I should have just gone really far away and just kind of. The thing is, like, oh, yeah, it was running out of time. Like it was a mess. It was basically a
Yeah.
mess. So that was kind of like probably my standout one, I guess. But yeah, I've hardly been able to play. I've like really done more scav factory, just like running around like crazy than anything else, just because it's so easy to just dip in and out of. You're not like committed on time.
Did you play at all yesterday?
I actually didn't know.
Okay, because I was curious if you had any bad experiences because yesterday the servers were on fire. GigaBeef.
I kind of saw on Twitter that people were like, nice update and stuff, and there's just like people dying around corners and all sorts of things. It looked like a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. I've only played Tarkov for a year, but that was, and I'm sure the game's been in a much worse state in terms of like server performance. But it was really bad. It was really bad. But what I noticed is I played reserve twice and I got like really like there's no indicator that the server's bad. It's just more so like you're fighting a guy and then you're running away and you're throwing grenades. And you're like, why is my grenade taking 6 seconds to go off?
Yeah,
I know it wasn't an M67. I definitely put F1s in my rig. And then you're both fighting each other and then you just stand still. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like I shot this guy 50 times in the head. I know what's about to happen.
yeah,
But anyways, I went reserve was bad. I went interchange was bad. And then I remember they had a post where they were like said like some optimizations, like
hmm
new server stuff was done on like customs, labs, and factory, I want to say. I
yeah.
was like, all right, let's try factory. And it was fine. Like the games are like perfect.
Mm.
I don't know if like yeah, it's really odd. And I'm not sure how I played labs today and woods. I just did a woods raid. I
Okay,
really
were
didn't
they? And that
notice
was
any
fine. Right?
issue.
Labs was fine for you. Was Woods okay?
Yeah, I only ran the scabs though.
Okay, so it's
I don't
hard to
know.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just like teething issues from whatever they've done. I'm not entirely sure what
Yeah.
they did. It sounds like a big overhaul, but
Yeah.
always the way with these things, right? There's stuff that you uncover that's like, oh, and this isn't working properly, and that's not working properly, and you have to do all the various network tests and everything. I can only imagine the amount of stuff they have to do to
Yeah.
really change anything. Is probably quite a lot. So hopefully it gets better, and it's maybe they did it then because then it's good for the weekend. So I would hope that that would be the case, and then
Yeah.
and then we'll see. Uh,
It's just interesting because I was like, if I remember their timeline correctly, it was like they announce this hardware upgrades, then they say Labs Factory Customs is supposed to have better performance, and then they finish the update, and then today in the this morning, it went down for maintenance because people couldn't log on or something.
yeah,
So I don't know. We'll have to see. Definitely yesterday was like the worst it's ever been, but hopeful for the future. And
yeah.
I saw too on not to like yeah. Anyways, moving on. I don't want to derail too much here because we got a lot of stuff we want to cover.
Fine, 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 fine. Okay, so yeah, I mean, what's new? I mean, I don't know. Do we talk about the raid at all? I don't know. Like, I actually didn't watch it for a while,
The
and then
raid series,
yeah, and then saw the latest
yeah.
one a bit late after everyone else. I was like trying to avoid spoilers on Twitter and stuff. Just like anytime anyone mentions it, I'm just like, oh, don't cover the screen. Like, don't see what happens.
Yeah. Well, have you watched it at all? Well, yeah, I guess
I
not really. No.
What do you mean? I watched it. I watched it. I watched it in the end.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I have
That's
seen it. I'm up
oh,
to date.
okay.
I'm up to date.
Oh, now you've caught up, but
Now I've
before
caught up.
you were
Yeah,
worried
before
about
it was like earlier
spoilers.
this week, so I
Oh,
actually
okay, I
watched
see.
it. I think Wednesday.
So you've seen them
Okay.
all?
Yeah, I've seen them all, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I love
See, I
them,
haven't
man. I love them,
really?
honestly. Yeah, I think they're great. I think they're great.
I need to watch it. I don't know why, I just haven't, like, put it in my to watch list yet.
Have you not seen them?
I haven't seen them,
You haven't
no.
seen them? Oh my god,
I've
okay,
seen
this is
bits and
criminal.
pieces. Is
They're
it
like
really?
dude, they're
Okay.
like 12 they're like 10, 12 minutes long. They're so short, really. Yeah,
Really?
they're
I thought
really
they
not
were
very
really
long. They're
long.
not very long. The last one I think the latest one is like 15 minutes or something, and that's
Oh,
like
I
the
thought they were,
finale.
like, 30
No, 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 no,
minutes.
no, no, no. It's really like you could
Okay.
bash the whole thing out in an hour. And you definitely should. Like,
Alright, now that
it's
you
like
said that.
it's kinda like, a loose weaving of, like, some kind of plot and, like, some Tarkov-y things, but, like, most of the time when I'm watching it I'm actually really bad at watching movies, and I get quite confused, especially in the raid ones. But so it's just kind of like some like general plot stuff and following characters and character development, whatever. And then the other half of it is just like non-stop gunfighting. And it's the reason why it's great is because it does actually feel like it's the old adage which everyone has a plan until they meet the enemy, or everyone has a plan until they
Hmm.
get hit, that kind of thing. And it's just like all hell breaks loose. There's grenades going off. You don't know who's who. Like it's proper like Tarkov style. It's great.
Yeah.
But like this the way that they've done it and like the cinematography of it. I mean, I guess if you've seen bits of it, then you kind of know. But it's like they've got all the proper like terror group like banners and things, and it's like it
Mhm.
feels so good. Like they've got the feeling in there
Yeah.
perfectly. Like it's awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say anything specifically about it. I didn't want to anyway, just in case people haven't seen it and they don't want to be spoiled or anything. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool, and it's like it's hinting to stuff in the future. I think it might have been Veritas who said maybe it wasn't Veritas. Maybe it was Veritas who said that the raid series is kind of like the closest that we get to like the idea in Nikita's mind of what the game should be like in
Yeah.
feeling, which is kind of more important than anything else in some ways.
Yeah.
And so I love them for that. Just to
Which
like
is
kind of
pretty
like
cool.
yeah, just to kind of like the feeling of it and
Yeah. Which
yeah.
I really like, and let me see how I can tiptoe around this. I like how they, um, the story and, like, the trust and interaction between the characters, I like how that's possibly Nikita's vision for the game, if you catch my drift, Giga,
Yeah, and like
and other people who've seen it.
there's like it's all kind of squad orientated and like all about comms, right?
Mhm.
And shows when comms go bad, and yeah, and ultimately it's kind of like PMCs can team up even like Bev and USEC. So I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah, I think this one in terms of like actual EFT, the game, um,
Mhm.
there's and I think you put this on the notes actually. There was it's kind of like a teaser of Terminal, because that's kind of like where the last one is set. It's like that. It's the gate of Shoreline. There's like that this CCP temp
Yes.
gate with the
Yes.
lights. It's like it's set there, and a bit beyond into Terminal, which is kind of cool. And like I actually, when I was doing some work on that like story video I did ages ago, I actually like went and spent some time like looking around, and like Terminal's actually really huge. I think I've said before it's massive, but you can kind of like peek through the gate. Like if you jump up onto like a little, there's like a bit near the minefield. There's like a little roof. If you like jump up, you can like kind of peek through and see, and it
Oh, really?
kind of looks like the set. Yeah, there's like a couple of buildings and things that are like modeled out there, and um, I
That's
kind of
cool.
see what they're getting at. Yeah, and there's a map that kind of lines up with Shoreline and that sort of next section for Terminal. Because I
Mhm.
think that's supposed to be the end of the game, right? You're supposed to like get to Terminal and then leave. I think is
Yeah, I
the
think
idea.
so.
Um, and it's quite funny. Like the implication in the raid is that you need like a labs card or something to like get out, or some kind of key card. I don't know whether
I
that'll
don't
be in the
know.
actual game. I'm not sure. We'll see. But like, well, you need to watch them 100%. They're super good. For anybody who's a fan of
Yeah.
Tarkov, they're amazing. They're actually amazing. It's just the feeling of them is so great. Um, yeah, that's that. I guess if you haven't
Did
seen them, then it's
did you see, Fuel's back in stock now?
I I did. Yeah, I did because
I think they even announced that it's back in stock, like, the testing is done or something.
oh, did they?
I think.
I
I
missed
might be
that. If
wrong about
so,
that.
I'm not sure, but I noticed that I tried to go and buy some, and he still had like 10,000 or something, and he was only, he was like 45 minutes
Yeah.
after the reset, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. Um, which is kind of interesting because like I was putting together something about the flea market is going out tomorrow, and like I we kind of wanted to include that in there, but like you don't really need it anymore. But it's still kind of useful, because you can like look at the desynchronization between the trader refresh and the flea market refresh, and like always kind of be there when it resets, which is good. But yeah, because loads of people were complaining about it, I'm not surprised they turned it off after a while because yeah, people were getting quite upset. But I mean, it's still like not super cheap. It's more expensive than it used to be, just like in general, I would say. Obviously not from Jaeger,
Yeah.
but on the flea, it's still like
Oh, I see what
it's
you
still
mean.
like
Yeah, yeah,
more. If
yeah.
you want to buy more than just like your one Jaeger, it's not like the back in the old days when the blue cans were like 40 grand.
Right.
Um,
Because yeah.
so maybe there's kind of like they're sort of like scaling it back in, and maybe it'll just like settle around that price. I don't know what they're actually tweaking. I think it's just the spawn drop rate. So maybe they'll just keep tweaking it till it's kind of around this level or similar to Jaeger or something. I just don't think it'll go super cheap again, just because that's not really what they want with Bitcoins, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too because like a lot of things happened this way. I feel like the fuel tanks became more valuable because that meant you could run your Bitcoin farm longer. And then when they started shorting fuel supply, everyone wanted the metal cans because the blue ones used to be where the money's at because you can make the mag boxes and stuff,
Yeah.
and you could always get them on the flea market for like 100K, and it would pay for itself every time with the craft. But now it's like sort of like flipped upside down. But I also think that what they did, I want to say they didn't tweak with the global spawns, but they tweaked with the trader Jaeger's supply. I think they gave him like double or like whatever they did. They gave him a lot more supply. I think that's what they did.
Yeah, that's actually probably fair because even if they didn't change the in-game spawn, that would still reduce the demand because more people are getting it up front, so there's less demand on the open markets.
Yeah,
People are getting it from Jaeger himself. That kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense. Maybe it's a combination of the two. I'm not sure. I haven't seen a
could
fuel
be.
cam for ages though. So even
Yeah, I
now,
haven't seen one.
even now. So
I haven't seen any. I don't think I've found one at all.
yeah, I think like there's one other interesting factor to this wipe because like it's almost like the perfect storm for Bitcoin in some ways,
Mhm.
in game, and one of them being that because they added the hideout skills, now your fuel does keep going for longer too because of those as well.
Yes, that's
And
true.
so you get like an extra 20, 25, 30. It depends on what your skill is, but so that's like people who are playing longer have now got even more fuel because it lasts for a very, very long time
Yeah.
if you've got high level high level high level hideout skills, which I think mine are like 30 something now. I've been trying quite
Hmm.
hard. It's quite difficult. Like it really takes some doing.
Yeah. I think it was bugged too at one point. Like it wasn't leveling.
Yeah, it was
Like
stuck for like
yeah.
a good 4 weeks or something, 3, 4 weeks, I think, where you couldn't do
Yeah.
anything. And I was just like continuing to mindlessly cycle through all the various things. Um, and then, to be fair, there's one thing that I haven't tested, which is the skill, like the skill exhaustion within the hideout for the crafting skills. If you craft the same thing over and over again, which apparently exists.
Yeah, that's what I
I just
heard.
kind of took that it exists and just started cycling crafts. And then I was still mindlessly cycling crafts, I think probably like a week and a half. And
Hmm.
then someone's like, oh, this doesn't actually level you up, by the way. Because I wasn't really paying it that much attention, like not going in like each time and like
Yeah.
clicking through and like having a look at what my bar is or anything like that. So I was just kind of like wasting money because some of them I do them just because like they're a different craft and they're fast. They're not necessarily because it like makes money. Like in the med station, for example, it's just like make the meds. That does make money if you buy your augmentin at the right level. But then if you turn that into 3 cheeses, that's like not profitable, but it's really, really quick. And it's easy to do
Mhm.
because you already have the meds. So it's just lazy. But then if you're not getting the skills for it, then it's like completely pointless, which was just a bit annoying for me.
Yeah.
But it's carrying on now. It's carrying on. So I think like mid 30s, whatever. It's we're getting there. We're getting there. I would like to get to the max level so you can run 2 crafts at once because I think that'd just be cool.
That's seems pretty OP,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It sounds like something I would enjoy. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. Sounds like something I'd enjoy. Oh yeah, talking like other hideout stuff. I'm like being kind of greedy as well at the moment with the hideout. It's quite funny. It's like half an experiment and half just like speculation and gambling. And that basically like I wasn't really sure because most of the money from the hideout really does just come from the bitcoins, and I was kind of intrigued to
Yeah.
see what happened if I split it out. And also because like bitcoins kind of come down a bit, I didn't want to sell them straight away, so I've actually just been like stockpiling the bitcoins. And it's interesting
Mm.
seeing like how my money itself is kind of just like flatlined because I'm doing some of these silly crafts as well, like the gas mask one, just because it's like a minute long and it's really fast. It allows you to just cycle through really quickly. You probably pay like 5 to 10K to do it. It's kind of offset somewhat by the profitable crafts, but basically like if you're squeezing it like that, then you don't really make that much money. And I've ended up just kind of like flatlining on actual cash, but then I've got like 21 millions worth of bitcoins just like in my hideout. And as it moves around, I'm like, there's actually some movement on this stuff. It's like now it's getting to like quite a chunky amount. It's quite funny to see how much it actually moves around. I'm just like, oh, it's like 500K rubles. It's only moved by 1,000. So we'll see
Diamond
where that
hands
goes.
only.
We'll see where that goes.
Hold.
Yeah. I just like hodl my bitcoins all the way up to whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's one of those things where it's like
Yeah.
if it ends up making like a huge fortune in Tarkov, then that's great. But like if not, then like it's only Tarkov, right? That's why I
Yeah.
basically only invest in Bitcoin in game. But I thought that was funny. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's got bitcoins like lining through my stash at the minute.
Did you see some of the leaks they've been putting out on, I mean, I call them leaks, but like BSG's Twitter? They've been posting like, I won't talk about the one that's related to the raid series. Because I think that's cool. I don't want to spoil it too much. Maybe next week we'll talk about it. I'm anticipating them to do a podcast soon. But anyways,
Yeah.
they they've been I looked it up, and I think YouTuber Nice Guy did a video on it. Which shout out to him. Um the USP 45 Elite pistol, 45 caliber pistol.
Yep.
Just okay. And then they had an AR, which I saw and I could not figure out what it was, but Nice Guy did a video on it, and apparently through some backwards engineering, he figured out that it's basically an AK, like a 7.62 AK, but it uses like the M4 ADAR platform. So you could put like all of those rails and stuff on it, which I thought was pretty cool, and like the different handguards and whatnot. So I'm excited to see that gun.
I think I saw the same video as you. He's actually like Nice Guy's stuff's really good. Then
Yeah.
that's the mutant, right? That's the mutant, I think.
Yeah, that's what's yeah, that's
Yeah.
what's called. Yeah.
And I think like is that it might even be maybe it's a variant or something. I'm not sure because like unless it's in a game that I've played, I don't know
Mhm.
what gun it is. I'm like one of those people. I'm not, as I've
Yeah.
said before, like I'm not really like an RL guns person. So
Yeah.
if it's been in a game and I've used it, then I'll know it. And if it's not, then I won't. But I think it might. There's something called the mutant in PUBG, and I don't know whether it's the same thing.
Hmm.
I think it is actually a 7.62, although you can't really tell in PUBG because butchered some of the ammo classes for the sake of gameplay, which is fair enough. But I think it's in that. I think it's like a semi-auto. It's like a DMR kind of. It's like a hybrid DMR
Huh.
in PUBG. Um, so I think it might well be that. I do remember my favorite part about that video actually is when he's like, it looks like they're going to include the fun button, i.e., full auto, on this variant, which I thought was great. That was
Oh, that's cool.
a great
Yeah.
way of describing full auto. It's kind of like having turbo in a sports car, just like turn your AK
Or
to fun mode.
the turbo button on like the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um yeah, they had like some clothing screenshots and some street stuff. But yeah, I'm expecting them to do a podcast here soon, just like something to show off what they've been working on. I'm anticipating it, but we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. I haven't actually seen any. Maybe some of them have passed me by, but I haven't actually seen any like big podcasts happening recently.
Someone in my chat mentioned that they are watching a podcast on Willer's stream, which he was like doing movie night for it. So I don't know if it was like, and they said Nikita was on there. So I don't know if it was like
Yeah.
I don't think it was a BSG official podcast,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'll have to look for that in the old YouTube. See if I catch the VOD
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. Sometimes it's quite hard to know that these things are coming.
Yeah, they're so yep, for sure.
It's a bit of a scattered universe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
nice. So I think that's kind of updates done.
Yeah.
Don't think there's anything else. Um, yeah, so I was thinking about this week and just wanted to discuss in a bit more detail. I think it was around around play styles, which I kind of like.
Mhm.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit before, just a tiny bit about it, and really it boils down to the aggressive play styles versus kind of like I don't want to use the classic
I was
labels
gonna
because
say, are we are we gonna go there? Are we gonna use Rat and
it's
Chad?
different, right? Because it's different because like I find that like sometimes I don't really like using those. I quite like using those labels actually, but I don't like using them for my own playstyle most of the time, just because like
Mhm.
I kind of play like well most of the time I kind of play pretty carefully, but like I'm not a as you know like I'm not a great looter. Like I'm much more there for kind of like the fights and stuff than for the
Mhm.
loot potential. So it kind of like changes a bit. But like recently I've been playing around with this like aggressive playstyle, which has been really really fun, and it's something that I've been interested in a long time, and it kind of works on maps that which is sort of what we alluded to
Yes.
last week. Um, but I don't know. I think it's interesting because there's kind of like pros and cons to both, and there's definitely times there's a time and a place for both play styles, and it's a combination of so many things, right? It's a combination of like your own personal experience and knowledge, what map you're playing on, what weapon you're using, if you've got a
Absolutely.
quest that you want to go and do, just how comfortable you are in that particular map. Which I think is interesting. And so, like where I've been practicing this stuff the most is clearly factory, because factory is a great place for aggressive play styles, and
Mhm.
it's I think it's kind of the reason for that. I mean, obviously it's close range, right? Obviously it's close range and it's CQB based. But what that sort of means in some ways is that you can't really see very far in factory, right? Like if you're running around on woods or running around on shoreline, you're quite likely to get shot at. Whereas like on factory, if you're like running down the office corridor, I know there's like a couple of like holes through, but you can keep yourself covered quite a lot. And there's like big crates in the way, and you can be on the stairwell and that kind of thing. Like the angles of attack are just like so much more narrow, and so
Mhm.
that slow play style does like works less well, because before I stop rambling here too much, the slow play style relies, in my opinion, on time to kill and spotting. That's why you want
Mm.
to play slow. And it doesn't really work as well close up. I know what your experience is, but like close up fights in Tarkov, like trying to play it too slow just don't really work for like a number of reasons. And it typically is
Yes,
much
yeah.
better like outside. And this is not that's I think this is normally why I kind of default to this, because I tend to play like outside on shoreline or outside on customs, and
Mhm.
I kind of used to feel like the fights were a bit more in my control, even though now it's actually weird because I'm sort of like flipping the other way around, because yeah, trying out this aggressive style is kind of working. But yeah, anyway, before I ramble too much, like, what's your like initial take on this topic?
So, I would say, first of all, there's no right or wrong way to play the game. Um, and in terms of like some people look down on people that quote unquote rat, or and some people even look down on people that like hold shift W everywhere. Um, Willers, for example, the guy I mentioned earlier, he's like a really good Tarkov player. And he said before multiple times on the stream is that like there's a time to play slow and there's a time to play fast. It's and I feel like the best players know how to utilize a slow play style and like an aggressive play style. And much like you said, playing aggressive requires a lot of like foundational work. Like you need to have pretty decent movement mechanics and like familiar with like how to move your character. You need like pretty decent map knowledge. You need like some foundational. Otherwise, you're just like flipping the coin. Like, all right, I'm gonna rush this door in labs and see what happens if I get shot at.
Yeah,
And then you need like a fairly decent aim. And whereas like a slower play style, you tend to default to that when you're not familiar with the map because you're trying to take your time in and absorb all the information on your screen. So like it really makes sense, especially like how you were saying when you're outside. I think when you're outside, I notice sometimes I sprint more, but sometimes I'll like just instead of sprinting, I'll just like walk
mm,
to like where I'm going and I'll like be scanning the area because I'm not like I can take in more information because I'm not moving faster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's room for both, and I think one, the aggressive play style, I think you kind of want a certain amount of foundation to really execute. Like you're saying on Factory, you've been experimenting with it more. Now that you have like all the information, the resources, the knowledge of the map.
Yeah. It's
I
been
mean, I was actually sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you go first. You go finish your thought.
I, w- I was gonna say I was playing Factory and I spawned that forklift. So I rush out. I peek down long hall. I don't stay there long because I can't really see. I'm just seeing if anyone's dumb enough to be running towards me. No one's there. So I go over towards like the forklift side. And you know how you swing left and it's like a hall, and then
Mhm.
there's like a little nook there where someone spawns.
Yeah.
And so like ADS, I hold it for a second. I'm like, all right, no one's there. I start sprinting. And like right as I'm about to like stop sprinting and ready my gun, this guy swings on me and starts shooting me and he caught me off guard. I was like, oh, and then I shot him, and luckily enough I shot him in the head. And I was like, whoa. Like I was like, man, that was a really good swing by that guy. Because he was trying to utilize a slower play style. I honestly was not. If he had shot me in the head, I probably would have died instantly. I just kind of got lucky that my
Yeah.
panic fire shot him in the head. But he was playing it really smart, I thought, because he was utilizing the sound cues of me running like an idiot, not like clearing my not like taking my time nading, you know what I mean? He
Mhm.
he swung out on me. So yeah, I think both can work, and I think, like I said, really good players utilize both to their fullest.
Yeah, I think that actually is quite, that's neat because that kinda, like, brings me on to, like, pretty much exactly what I wanted to say, which
Hmm.
was about oh god, I've literally have I lost my trail of thought because I rambled too long. Oh my god, what was I gonna say about that? Oh, that's the absolute worst. No, so
I'm sorry, I hate that.
yeah, because I was thinking about what was I thinking about? So I was thinking about you coming down that corridor, the guy
Hmm.
being silent and listening.
Yeah,
Ah,
just being
yes.
patient.
Yes. I know what I was gonna say. So the rule of thumb that I've kind of been using now for a little bit of time, and it seems to kind of work, is be be cautious and patient when you don't know where people are,
Hmm.
and play
Yes.
aggressive when you do,
Yeah.
and press people because like that guy kind of like he utilized the fact that he knew where you were because he could hear you. You didn't know where he was. And then I think like the next stage to that is like the really good players kind of overcome that and like surpass that hurdle because even though they don't know specifically where you are, they know where there's a
Hmm.
very good likelihood of you being. Just as a
Yes.
general player, right? They kind of know like where like they've played the map so many times. And this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine how some of the guys who um are playing, going to be playing in the Punisher tournament. Interesting one,
Yeah, I
actually.
know.
I just reminded myself about that. But like the fact that they've played the map like billion times, like, and even me, who is not playing as much as these guys by any means, and is nowhere near as good, right? I already feel like I'm getting into a rhythm, right? And so that's the thing. It's like if you then did like 5,000 more hours doing that, like you're going to just see the same people in the same spots over and over because people like
Yeah.
people have a there's like obvious places to go. It's like you say, like round the nook, behind the box, this by this forklift, whatever. And it's just kind of like you just kind of instinctually start to recognize some of these places where people are going to be. And I think that kind of like then raises you to like that next level, right? And
Mhm.
that's one reason why I quite like Factory for practicing this kind of thing because you don't have to worry too much about the map. Like Factory is quite like finicky in some ways, but I think that's only just because there's not a lot of it. And so you have to really know it in like quite a lot of detail. There's lots of little bits to know. But because it's not like a vast amount of it, you can actually know at least a decent proportion of it and kind of be like, well, in general, as I come down this corridor, and I think this is what I like about it versus something like interchange, especially if you're playing solo, because it's like I have to cover this spot and then this spot, then this spot, then this spot. It's like it's quite formulaic because you move through the map. It's like there's a place here that I might get shot from. There's a place here and there and there and there. Whereas I feel like on something like Interchange playing as a solo, you have to know the map like so incredibly well and cover so many different angles. You end up kind of like I don't know, accidentally playing slow if you to just try and cover everything, right? Whereas there's not as much to cover in Factory, partly because of that like less angles that I mentioned before,
Yeah,
because you kind of like covered a lot of the time. And so I think I don't know. That's kind of like how I felt like the progression has kind of gone, and the way that I like see other players playing. Because you look at somebody like Landmark and you just say like, well, how are they able to play like that? And it's just because yeah, they're basically expecting you. Or they use just like yeah, tiny little sound cues, and then they just know immediately where you are. But even if people are just like sat in the corner, um, he pretty much already knows like the likelihood of where you might be. Then, then you have the next point, which is the classic the classic situation in EFT, right, that people always talk about, which is the peaker's advantage.
mhm,
And I don't, it's definitely not inconsequential in terms of
for sure.
like performance, right? Because even if you play a slow, and this is kind of what sucks about playing a slow play style at close
Yeah,
range, is that you can hold an angle and still get shot before you even see somebody, that kind of thing. And it's like I do sometimes people talk about it as if it's like a very long period of time that you get to shoot somebody, and like yeah, maybe sometimes when the servers are on fire, like you were saying the other day, it is, and it really sucks. Like you don't even see someone where it's like 2 seconds or whatever, and then like oh they appear on the screen and you're dead. But like normally when things are working well, it's only it's a very small portion of time. Like there was a situation I had where kind of in the same area, right? Like the forklift area, but it's in that tiny little room with the set of stairs with the wooden floor. Um, the one with the one next to like the breach door. You can only reach it from one direction.
yeah.
You got the tiny little boxes, and it like links to that underground
Are you talking
corridor.
about?
Yeah. So like it's like down the stairs there, and then going away from forklifts. And there was a dude like at the end, like round the corner with a shotgun. And
Mhm,
I heard him from upstairs in the box. I knew someone was down there, but I didn't know exactly where. And I just like sprinted down the corridor and just like moved out and killed him. But he actually did manage to hit me like once or twice with his shotgun
mhm,
before he died. Um, and I think that was partly because like I didn't know exactly where he was going to be, and so there was like that split second of me, like he could hear me coming and knew I was going to be there, which is kind of offsets the fact that he might be at a slight disadvantage because I've got Peaker's advantage because I'm the one coming around the corner. But then that's also
mhm.
offset because I don't know where to aim. So I have to come around the corner, look, see the guy, move my mouse, whereas he has to hear, watch me come, and then fire, right? And so both those things kind of happened at the same time. And I was wearing like a beefy piece of armor, so like maybe if I had been wearing like level 4 or something, I might have just been dead immediately. So I do think in a lot of situations it's kind of like offset sometimes like that.
Yeah.
Um, but then like the alternative is like I was fighting against some dude on customs on in dorms on he was on one of the stairwells and he went inside, and I knew exactly which room he was in, and I knew pretty much exactly which angle he was going to be in, and he actually had a vector with a 50 rounder as well, but I
Ooh,
pre-fired him with the MP7 as I came around the corner, and so he was probably dead before he even like saw me on the screen or something, because it's like I'm not even like timing my shot properly, right? Like I start off shooting the corner of the wall, and so it's just like straight in, and there's just no, you just don't really have a chance there, because so that kind of offsets, right? Because like I knew exactly where to fire. So there's kind of like a few things, but I don't know. Like playing that aggressive playstyle has worked quite well, and like some people say like, well, top level. I have seen this criticism before on Twitter, for example. People saying like, well, top level
mhm.
players like abuse the biggest advantage in this game, and if they played any other game, then it wouldn't work or whatever. But like, I'm always of the opinion with these things, pretty much that like, it's in the game. You just got to play the game as it is. It's up to the devs to fix this stuff. It's not up to
Yeah,
players to like
yeah,
do or don't do various things. Like it's such a gray area. You just got to maximize your success in it, and what one game might have one thing and one game might have another, and whether that's because advantage or lag or whatever, as long as you're not using external software for it, if it's in the game, it's
mhm.
built into the fabric of the game, I don't think you can really complain for anybody doing that kind of thing. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's I definitely Peekers plays a role, but I've even seen, like, Quat do you know have you ever heard of Quattro Ace?
Yeah.
I've watched him before, and he does, like, some nutty stuff where he's, like, holding an angle, and the guy's trying to push him through the doorway and peek him, but he also peeks and pre-fires and, like, just one taps the guy in the head. just like that before he even gets a chance to shoot back. I was like, "Oh my god, that looks so dirty."
So it's like a counter like peep pre-fire kind of thing.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's like he's like combining both the slow play style with the aggressive play style because he hears the aggressor coming. So he's getting the audio cues. He already has like 1,000 hours or whatever on labs, so he has, like, all this, like, foundational knowledge. He knows, like, where to put his center of the screen roughly to line up the headshot. He peeks aggressively to catch the aggressor off guard, and he pre-fires. Like, he literally just did everything right all in one go, and it just, like, it was beautiful to watch, so,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
nutty. I've only watched him a couple of times,
Mhm.
but I mean, he's always been like one of the best, right? He's always been one of the best at this kind of thing. The
Yeah.
the person whose clips I keep watching, and they're on Twitter, so I keep watching them. I don't know whether you've seen them as well. Is Glorious Ease like
I knew you were gonna say it. I knew
tasty one
it.
tap clips? Honestly, they're so funny. Like
Yeah.
a combination between like his reaction and the way that they go
Yeah.
down. I don't even know how he pulls that stuff off. It's absolutely insane.
It's pretty insane,
He's
yeah.
like, it's just like, and then just thunk. But he
Yeah.
turns and swings like super quick, like the other
Yeah.
way, so he doesn't get hit. It's mental. And
Yeah.
then he like looks back and he's just like, "Oh no way!" And he's just like such a fun personality. It's just
Yes.
every time it's a good time. Every time it's a good time. But yeah, his are also nutty. It just reminded me of El Glorious talking about Quattro.
Yeah.
Because
He's a great guy. He's super humble, super great guy. Yeah.
exactly,
I like him a lot.
he's good. He's good. So I guess like because I've been doing it, I've been talking a lot about the old aggro play style, but the the slower side of the game, which
Mhm.
in my opinion probably is the way the game well was intended to be.
That's
I was going to say designed, but I don't think it was designed that way.
yeah.
I think it was intended to be that way and just ended up like this. Um,
That's how I feel too. Yeah.
yeah, because it's supposed to be, I think, in feel a kind of like the tactical, slow playing
Right.
kind of yeah, communications, teamwork orientated, spotting kind of shooter in
Yeah, check
theory.
like clearing your corners, like,
Yeah,
not just like sprinting everywhere, I guess.
yeah,
Moving
exactly.
from cover to cover, like more
Mm,
methodical is
yeah,
kind of what I imagined. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I'm not gonna. I don't want to touch too much on like AD strafe
Mhm.
stuff because that like just all comes into you know peaks advantage and
Mhm.
all that kind of thing. But like that's was one reason for it. But I do still think that there is a lot of merit to the slower play style. And as we said, kind of if you're outside, whatever, it's good in some circumstances because it plays into the hands of like the low time to kill that the game has in the first place. Because and I think this is I think you alluded to this before that a lot of players kind of fall into this play style automatically when especially when you're new because you don't know the maps and you're trying to play careful and you just don't know what's around the next corner and
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it's super scary, right? And so people end up like crawling around the map at like minimum speed, trying to make no sound. Um, and obviously that's like one extreme, right? It's like one extreme to the other. It's like
Yeah.
I have done exactly that, like crawling around the map at minimum speed, not
Yep.
really knowing where I'm going to the extract. Like I remember it vividly. Like, I think it was the first raid that me and one of my buddies ever killed anybody who was juicy, and the guy had like the that weird 3 times scope, with the weird dot in it. I can't remember what it's called now. I haven't used it for
Oh, is it
such
the
a long time.
prism?
Yeah, the prism.
It's
That's
like a
it.
s it's
Yeah,
yeah.
compact prism. And the guy had one of those with a red dot on it, and he had another gun with him as well, a sniper rifle with like an Elcan or something. And I was like mind blown. Like this is insane. Like this is the most crazy thing ever. Because I one tapped this guy with like a Saiga 9.
Oh, snap.
But yeah, we basically we spent so long like moving around shoreline that we ended up. It was 5 seconds to the extract, and like we
Oh,
ended up timing
no.
out and lost everything. And so that's like, I mean, that was like right at the beginning, and but I remember that
Yeah.
vividly, right? And that's you kind of like move
Yes.
from that to some kind of like intermediate play style. Because I would say like now, if I'm playing like slow methodical, it's never really like that unless you're in some kind of stupid situation in resort or something where
Mhm.
like there's somebody nearby and they're there and you're in one room and they're in another room and you're trying to reposition silently so they don't hear you. Like I don't really like those situations. But like my usual style these days for the slow play is kind of like walk, never sprint outside, but don't stay still, like zigzagging, move from cover to cover to try and like cover your path, right? It's like, yeah, someone just said in chat, as long as slow doesn't mean stationary, like you never ever ever want to be stationary. But
Yeah.
I think the place that like this has worked perfectly for me in the past is kind of the outside of customs, just in general. Like when I've been playing customs, and that I know it's a map that kind of plays to a lot of like the strengths of that playstyle in general. Because like if you're on woods or shoreline or something, it's almost like too big. You're kind of like, well, you're relying more on your spotting skills than you're on anything else. Whereas
Mhm.
customs is kind of small enough and has like narrow enough corridors that if someone is running and you're not running, you will hear them like way earlier, but you won't
Yeah.
necessarily see them straight away because they're like behind bushes
Right.
or there's a lot of ridge in the way or whatever. And it can happen on the other maps for sure. But it's just I feel like it's more likely to happen on customs just because those routes are kind of closer together, kind of either by design or just kind of by like player preference, right? It's like people take a wide berth around dorms, even though you probably could cut quite close in. Like, who's really looking out of those windows? But sometimes people are, right, and you get shot. So people take like a really wide berth around dorms, or like they sit like right up against the fence line at the back edge, or up by like
Yeah.
the bus station, and so people are kind of like funneled into these routes, and so you hear people, and when they're running, like the number of people who just put like running in, and as soon as they come through the like a bush in front of you, you just and kill them, and that's a kind of place where like Pika's advantage doesn't really work right because they don't know where you are, and there's
Right.
no like corner. It's not like a fair fight almost,
Right.
and like it almost feels a little bit dirty sometimes to me, but it's also just really really effective. I don't know. It's just like I'm not gonna not do it, but like you hear somebody and you're walking and they're sprinting, you just stop, stand still, and that's it, and then just wait for them to
Yeah.
appear,
Yeah.
and it's like
Oh, for sure. That's the advantage of that playstyle because
yeah.
you're using the audio cues because you're not giving off a loud audio cue. You're moving slower. I mean the the downside to that is if someone spot you from afar, then you would be moving slower, so you would be an easier target to hit than someone sprinting. I guess that would be like the only the downside.
Yes, that's
Whereas in
very true. Yes.
yeah. But otherwise, you're good to go because you hear them, a mile or not a mile, but you hear them before they can hear you. So you get time to like set up in position, aim, place your crosshair, so for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can kinda locate them, like, fairly I'd say fairly easily. Like, even now without Steam Audio in the game, you can still figure out
Yeah.
where people are. I actually use again, like, another Veritas trick, which is hear shots or whatever, and you, like, turn your character's model's head side to side
Absolutely.
so then you can pinpoint much more easily. Because I find without Steam Audio, I find front back really hard to figure out,
Oh
so
yeah.
I do that all the time.
100%.
Just do a little bit of the old head wiggle. Um But yeah, I think that's kind of like why you end up though. It's like you've got sprint like AD, shift W sprinting on one end, and you've got crawling around the map on the other. But you're just going to get shot in the head, which is why, as I said, I've kind of like tended to do this thing now. It's just like I do sprint through the open areas, right, where it's like clearly the way you're being seen is more disadvantageous to being heard than sprint away, right? But on customs, for example, there's not that many places where you can be seen from a long distance. Like shoreline and woods is a bit
Mhm.
different. And reserve too, actually. There's quite a lot of places on reserve that are a bit different because it's very, very open. But I think the weird thing about customs is because it's so flat and it's like flat, but there's enough buildings and there's enough stuff and enough foliage, cover, trees, whatever, that there's like not that many clear sight lines unless you're actually in the kind of stronghold area or like a lot of the bits around dorms, it's like you're not really going to get sniped unless you're really unlucky and
Yeah.
you're in the wrong place. Um, but even still, and the way to minimize that kind of like disadvantage for being slower if you're being spotted, and as I said, right, if you're actually in the open, then you should run. But outside of that, the things that I always try to bear in mind, and it's quite difficult actually to like try to train yourself to do this in some ways, and always be thinking about like your character's model and like and as an outside perspective, almost in third person, like who can see me? What angles am I at? Right, and it's like that moving from
Mhm.
cover to cover. It's like, well, there's a bush here, it's in front of me, and there might be dudes like ahead, so I'm going to move up to the bush. But and then as I pass the bush, remembering in your mind's eye that it's still behind you, right? And using that to kind of like block your motion to wherever you're going next, so that if someone does come up behind you, say, "Well, here's the entrance; it's over there." Like this is kind of like big brain stuff that it's so hard to remember. Like I always try, but I think it's good to at least give it a go. And so you're like, well, there's the entrance to this area over there, and then there's a bush here, and I'm going to keep myself, even though I'm not looking
You're
that way, I'm going to keep the bush
yeah, you're trying to
between like
yeah,
them and me. So if someone just pops out at the last minute and I don't see them, then
yeah.
they're not going to see me straight away, and they might give themselves away or something, or at least it allows me to slip around the next corner and disappear. Um, and so that's kind of the thing, right? It's like being a bit like tricky about your movement and your motion, and not like moving too much in one direction. I do a lot of like kind of like zigzagging, and like even stopping like
Yeah.
for a split second is actually kind of okay, because someone might be trying to like line up a shot, and then you stop and they shoot ahead of you, kind of thing.
I
Obviously, you don't
can't
want to
tell
be
you
stopping for a long
how many
time, but
times I've lined up a shot and then a guy's like just aiming, and then as soon as I shoot, he just turns and looks a different direction and it misses his helmet by like a
yeah.
centimeter. And it was just infuriating. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Like it's super hard to actually get a good shot off in this game.
Yeah.
Um, irrespective of lag and desync, actually, it's just like it's just quite tough to do between the hold breath and the way that recoil works and the player movement. I think the player movement doesn't help, right, with the lack of inertia. But I think I don't know, but yeah, I think that play style like lends itself well to the kind of semi-auto DMR, like high-powered rounds kind of situation, as well as others. But it leans more that way because it's like you want somebody to be dead real quick, so you don't really want to be going through armor or anything, or getting absorbed by armor, I should say. You kind of want them to just die. Uh,
Right.
and I think again, this is like why it's like a nice new player thing, because you don't necessarily need to be the best person at aiming if you can shoot somebody that doesn't even know that you're there. Um, it makes it a lot easier, right? Because they're not trying to like cover themselves from you necessarily, or you can like if you're really far away, then you can kind of like take your time and take your shots, and um,
Yeah, for sure.
comes with its own challenges. But yeah, I mean, especially if you're shooting at long range, right? You don't want to be like you don't see anybody using like the MP7 at like 500 meters. Like it's a
Hmm.
gun, but it's got like even if it had the same bullet velocity, it's just like even like M855A1, right? It's just like unless you're going to hit somebody in the head, it is quite tough. And at those distances, like actually connecting the headshot is so hard. The big bullets are, I don't know, they're just so much easier, right? You just like two hit somebody in the thorax through armor, and that's that, which is kind of what you want, right? Because your likelihood of hitting a round on somebody at that range is so much lower than when you're closer, just kind of by its very nature.
I was thinking, so kind of how I like to play customs when I decide to go customs is I only thing I want to do is just rush dorms, hit the rooms, and then get out because I think I just like because I feel like inside dorms you're more likely it's going to favor aggressive playstyle because there's so much more cover. So there's so much more peeking, which plays into that peeker
Hmm.
advantage thing that we talked about. I mean, you can still definitely play slow. Like if I'm looting a safe and I hear someone running up metal, unless I think playing aggressive is going to result in me killing them, I'm probably going to wait until I can use an aggressive move to kill them. But anyways, I think that's why I don't like customs is because outside of going dorms, I'm sprinting through the map and someone's, like you said, taking it slow and they hear me coming. I'm just like, la 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 la, sprinting down. And I run into them and die. Which is
Yeah,
which I was gonna ask you, do you go dorms? Like what's your kinda thing with
not
dorms?
really. Like
Okay,
not typically,
interesting.
unless I've been going a lot more recently because I had the quest to kill PMCs there, and that kind
Mhm.
of gave me more confidence, I would say, because like I've actually I don't know, I'm a bit scarred with dorms because it's customs, and I've been to dorms, through
Yes.
the whole Tarkov career, and
Yeah.
I have like this kind of you know this vague memory of dorms and getting killed, right? And it's just
Yes.
like it's
Oh,
kind
I
of
have
like
that memory too.
yeah, and it's just kind of like I never really got over that,
Yeah.
and so it's still just like oh dorms to me, and so I've been working on that with this quest. Like, there's quite a lot of these quests actually that have been quite nice and have been helping me to kind of push the agenda that I'm trying to do for this wipe. And it's then like
Mhm.
oh, taking all the factory experience that I've been getting and then transporting that straight over to dorms because, as you said, right, there's there's not that many sight lines. It's inside. There's a lot more peeking. It plays out like a mini factory in a lot of ways, right? It's like you can
Mhm.
hear people, you know, kind of where they are.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, you can make these interesting plays, kind of like I guess like similarly to one of my honestly one of my favorite things, and this is like very small tangent, but one of my favorite plays on Factory is being in the office and having people rush down the corridor and you burst out
Yeah.
just before they get there and gun them down in the corridor. Because the people cannot help themselves but come and find you in there. And I just leave the
Yeah.
doors open. I just leave the doors open. So
Yes.
don't even close them,
Yeah.
leave the doors open. And then like I hear I'm just like, oh, here they come, here they come. And as soon as they're halfway down, there's nowhere to go. Like there's nowhere to go. And so you just burst out and
Yep.
and just get somebody. And so it's very similar to that in dorms actually, and that was kind of like the similar experience that I had when I was playing against the dude with the vector, and he moved into that room, and it was just like, okay, well, I know where he is, and then round the corner, and bam, there we go. Um, so I've definitely had my fair share of deaths in dorms, but it's like, yeah, to answer your question, like it's not typically the place that I would go. Like if I wanted to go and do that, I would normally go and play factory. So I actually usually stick away from dorms. I've got like a route that I normally use to customers. It's kind of like I don't know. It's just like I kind of have fun just sort of like traipsing around my usual route and just seeing what happens. I don't know because I'm not going out for anything like in particular. I'm not like expecting to fight anyone in particular. It's just kind of like I'll go through and if there's some gunshots, maybe we'll go and look in gas or I might go up to construction or whatever. It's like just kind of like take it as it comes. And again, it's not really like a loot run or anything. It's just like my usual route that I know really well. And it's like I think this is this case for some Tarkov players, but definitely and especially for me and like just my own like personality. So I get myself like rutted into things that I know quite well, and then just do them over and over again, and like to the exclusion of other stuff. But I know that's like a personality trait of mine. I'm very very aware of as well.
It's funny, I was thinking I played some reserve earlier this week, and as like a joke or like a meme, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna buy a KS-23 and I'm gonna go rat in D2." And I bought a bunch of KS-23s, and let me tell you, I did not kill a single person. I absolutely
Really?
suck at yes, playing, like,
Yeah.
super slow, and, like, I would hear a shot, and it would be, like, 5 minutes in, I'd be like, "Alright, I'm gonna go push those shots." I'm like, "I can't wait."
Did you
And
actually camp D2 at any point though? Like properly?
I no, I so one of the things I was doing is I would go down in the new underground area,
Mhm.
and there's this so Queen, the server room, when you go
Yeah.
underground, the there's, like, the metal staircase that leads you to the new underground, and you can jump on top of this, like, power generator, and then from there, you can jump next to the vents on this little, like, breaker box, and then from the breaker box, you can jump on top of the, like, giant metal bunker door, and so you're, like, in this, like, little sneaky spot, right? I was gonna jump up there and, like, just troll some people, and when I go to the area, I didn't clear that spot that I planned to get in, and someone was sitting there with a pistol and killed me, because I was naked with a KS-23 and it scared me. I jumped and, like, hit my Windows key. It was a hot mess.
Oh my god. Well, that kind of
Yeah.
serves you right, I guess. But yeah, oh goodness me. So you really do like playing fast then?
It's
More so than
just
anything else?
I mean, part of it is because I feel like the game promotes it, not only with the Peeker's Advantage, but, like, if you're not first to the loot,
Yeah.
you're last, and I know you're not really, like, a looter, but I'm a loot goblin, let me tell you. I love getting me some
I
fat
think
loot.
most people are.
So, yeah, it's fun. Um, but you know what? Another side tangent, going back to what you were saying earlier, how you were, like, reminiscing about some of your early experiences of Tarkov. Like, you killed that guy and you had, like, that loot that you've never seen before,
Mhm.
that prism scope. I feel like a lot of people, and maybe this is just me, and I'm in this category, but, like, we're all chasing that experience, you know? I want that experience where, like, I kill a guy and I'm just, like, freaking out, trying to get to the extract, fumbling my way to the extract because he's got, like, you know, this gear I've never seen before, that the whole, like whereas now it's just, like, that feeling's lost, like, it's so hard to get, like, now it's always about, like, "Oh my god, I got 3 Letixes," or, "I got 2 GPUs in my container," that's, like, the big thing now is just, like, rushing rushing these spawns and getting the loot, it's I don't know. I
Yeah.
miss those days,
I know, I know. I think like the first wipe or I mean, especially the first wipe is like a special thing. But it's like most things, right? Like
It's true.
it's always difficult because like once you've done it once, then it's not new, it's not novel anymore. It's kind of like play Minecraft for the first time or play. There's a
Mhm.
ton of games that I can think of that I would love to just like delete my memory of for a day and just go and like experience them again afresh
It's
because
true.
it is insane. But I don't know. You kind of like I guess that sort of like height of like exhilaration or whatever does kind of it comes in different forms. I would say it's just different now because like back then
Yeah.
it was like a lot of excitement like that, but also like just so much fear as
So much
well.
fear.
So much fear, which has kind of gone away mostly. I mean, yeah, still jump and stuff. Like there's no two questions about
Yeah.
that. But there's still excited like that customs raid I think did it happen the week before? I think so. I mentioned it was like 5 million rubles in one raid. I might have mentioned
You
it
had
to
a
you
fi
off the
Oh, yeah, that
I might have
was when you
mentioned it
got
off y
the
off the podcast actually. Yeah, that was getting the Zabralo.
yeah,
So I can't remember if I mentioned this
which is
before,
great.
so like apologies if I did.
I
But
think you
yeah,
did.
it was like killing Rashalo and all his guys. One of them had a Zabralo, one of them had an ult in, and basically went off wearing both of those things. Um, Insurance forwarded my own like hex grid and then stood in front of a scav for 5 minutes, getting it lower than 50%, and then selling it on the flea market for 4 million, which is like 3.5 after the fees, because people buy it for that Ragman quest. You have to get an under 50% Zabralo, and getting them
Yeah.
in raid under 50% only happens if you find one on a raider or on a guard or something, and then you take it, and then it gets damaged. Like it's really an unlikely scenario. So, but that was kind of cool because those unique things happen, and I think Tarkov's like got enough like unique things that just happen organically. Um, maybe I'll in 3 years time maybe I'll say no, there's nothing left in the game, it's boring now, who knows. But there's because like people always complain about the lack of end game content, that kind of thing, but I just find
Yeah.
like enough just like interesting fights happen. And I think that's another thing I've just been trying to focus on in general, is just like don't worry so much about like this sort of like fabled endgame content. It's like people, I always say this, right? Like people aren't like
Mhm.
people ever crying out for like PUBG endgame content or whatever, anything like that, right? The gameplay is just like the gameplay is the gameplay. The gameplay is great anyway, and that's what I enjoy about wandering around on customs. Just like I'm not there for anything in particular. I'm just like, let's just see what happens and see what fights kind of appear and see who we meet, and maybe we win, maybe we lose, but it's the journey that matters. I don't know. It's like the gameplay is very good, so long as you're not getting desync and stuff. To be honest, my game actually has been really really good so far. That's
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks, and so I've just been enjoying the gameplay. Honestly, I've just been enjoying the gameplay. Even
Yeah.
raids without any particular agenda.
Yeah, I was playing Factory literally just to I mean, there's nothing else to do there besides PvP, but I was having a blast. I was like, "Man, I'm gonna play Factory more," which I did today a little bit. Um,
Yeah, it's good fun.
yeah. I think too, like, that's kinda the only thing I'm after now. It's just I want good fights, so when, like and I know we need to wrap it up, but, like, when, desync happens, it just ruins the experience, and it's really it sucks, and it is what it is, we just have to move on.
Yeah,
And, same is, true for, like, extract campers, which I haven't died to one, but when that does happen, it's just like, man, that was, like, such a good raid. Like, I would've been fine if, you killed me, if you were, like, the 4 man in that squad or whatever, if you third party me, like, I would've been fine, but it's just like, man, that was, like, such a good experience, and it just, like, at the end, it just all gets chopped off, but you just have to move on and accept this, it's part of the game, I guess.
exactly. And the thing is, right, the reason why it sucks so much in Tarkov is because it's just so much worse, right? It's like the
Yeah.
investment of firstly gear, then secondly time, and third, the experience of actually having to do it all, and surpassing all of these, other people challenges. Maybe you like escape, maybe you kill someone, I don't know, and like you heal up and you just about survive, and then like to get to the end, it's just like it's like a really bad movie. And so in COD, like if you get a bit
Yeah,
of like lag and then you die, it's like yeah, a bit annoying, but it doesn't matter. Whereas
right,
like there's
you
just so
just
much more
queue up
invested.
again.
Yeah, there's so
Yeah,
much more invested in Tarkov. That's why people get frustrated by it, because it's like
yeah,
the tolerance for like system failure in that way is very low because each raid means something, right? It matters. It really
Mhm.
matters. I think we should talk about at some point, actually, not this time, but I think we should talk
Yeah,
about exit campers and like other stuff like that. I think maybe we should because
that sounds great.
it's
I can't wait to rip on them now.
it's it's just such a divisive topic.
Yeah.
Um, so I'd be interested to talk about that next time. I think, or
Maybe
a different
we'll
time.
get, the expert on the subject.
Exfil
Exfil
camper.
Cam yeah, we will do that.
Who knows? Who knows? I kind of like his stream's crazy big for it's such a chill stream. I
Yeah.
actually like visited it once or twice, and it's super chill. But cool.
Yeah, so should we, wrap up? Like,
Yeah.
I just wanna say is that there's nothing wrong with playing slow. There's nothing wrong with playing fast. Like, both aggressive and passive, I think, have their place. And I think especially if you're learning the game, you should definitely lean more on passive because I think it naturally just favors it gives you more time to take in the information and also literally just learn the information as you're playing. Because you're like GigaBeef said, you're gonna be hearing sounds and you're gonna be trying to figure out because Tarkov audio is a little janky right now. So for sure, news of the game, absolutely utilize the information you learned. And I think also you need to like it's good to sort of like branch out a little bit of your comfort zone to sort of like put what you learn to the test. I can say for labs, I definitely felt at that. Once I got lost in the underground, I was like, all right, I'm gonna fumble my way to the elevator and go kill raiders and get out this raid. My first raid I did pretty good because I fought a guy in cafeteria, which I've never fought anyone before. But anyways, back on topic. Giga Beef, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think look, there's definitely room for both, and I think the aggressive play style, as you said, relies a lot more on information and like efficient information processing of like what's going on around you, which really comes from like game knowledge. And so you
Hmm.
sort of move into that as time goes on, as you're more comfortable, as you have to kind of like have the gear fear removed as well, because otherwise you'll kind of hesitate in your plays and that kind of thing. So it's a play style that's kind of around confidence, and you build it up over time. And so I think some people are just more predisposed to it than others. Some people have less gear fear than others and don't really care. I'm a huge gear fear person, and I managed to eradicate it probably like halfway through last wipe. But like it's been a lot, I've had it for a long time. It's so
Yeah,
I feel it, and that's one thing that for me is kind of like put me back from actually just trying it and practicing it. Because I used to kind of only do that type of thing playing scav in factory, which by the way I think is actually one of the perfect places to try it out. If like me, you're playing from the beginning and scared and whatever, you can like once your immediate money concerns are gone anyway, because like scav runs can be quite profitable. But once you don't like desperately need the money right then and there, or you've only got 10 minutes, or you just want to do get a quick raid in, just like shift Wing around factory and scav is actually quite freeing in a lot of ways, and it kind of just opens up the game like in a risk free way that makes you think actually maybe this is possible. And like what if I was actually wearing some armor and had like a decent gun or something, and once you know the map a bit, it's good, and you just kind of like move from there. It's a confidence thing, I think, as much as anything else, confidence and game knowledge to be able to expand into that.
yeah. I think that's a good point. Something we maybe didn't touch on too much is you can use your scav, and on a map like Factory, you can since it's such a small map, there's a lot less information to learn. You can
Yeah.
play more raids and get a lot more map knowledge and learning the sound cues and things like that. So you could really like fast track your way to being very comfortable with playing more aggressive, which I even think Veritas said that he thinks every player should learn factory first because you'll naturally just learn the mechanics of the game.
Mm.
The downside of that is, you know, it's late wipe currently, and it's not free to load your PMC into factory. But that being said, I think, yeah, what do you think?
I just think that's why I think that's why playing it as scav is awesome. I do kind of see the I see the sentiment behind that, because one of the biggest problems that you have when
Mhm.
you're new is that you don't get to practice playing against other players enough
Yeah.
because half the time you don't even see them and you don't know where they're going to be, and you don't really get into fair fights, particularly when you're brand new,
Mm. That's
and
true.
it makes it very hard to actually. I think that's part of like the steep climb right at the beginning. It's just so hard to get past that point of just like every time I go anywhere, I get shot. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing or how good my gun is because I just get shot in the head every time and die. And it's
It'd be rough.
yeah, it's really rough and it's so hard to get past that point. Whereas on at least on factory, you're probably gonna see the person that kills you. um,
Most of the time, yeah.
But then again, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I would have just like main factory right at the beginning as a new player. I just don't know if I would have done it. I don't think I had enough experience to not just burn through my entire stash, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So I think like there's a middle ground to be had. I
for
wouldn't
sure.
recommend just doing it all the time, personally. And I just don't think it would have worked for me. I'd have just been like too scared and wouldn't have played properly and that kind of thing. So just kind of like built it up with time. Although I wish I had kind of gone and done it sooner, even though I don't
Mhm.
think I should necessarily have done it right at the beginning. I think like once you're sort of like semi comfortable with the game and you're above level 20 or whatever, then, like you can definitely go and like win on factory. I was actually surprised at the number of people who are kind of like not really that kitted, to be honest. There's like plenty of
Yeah.
people wearing like ordinary kits like level 4 armor and stuff, and then there's like a bunch of people just using pistols. So it's not all like super super thick boys. I'm the monster under the bed these days. It turns out. So
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I feel like it'd be a very you'd have to be I had to know you pretty well to recommend you, "Okay, you just got Tarkov, go play Factory 1,000 times, get back to me when you're done." You know what I mean? I feel like that'd be a really, like, hard pill to swallow, but, yeah, I mean, kinda falling back on what we talked about the other last week is you can, budget use your budget kits, do your homework, learn the spawns, and, after 100 deaths, then you'll have, like, a basic understanding of the game.
yeah, look, that's true
I
though,
used
right?
to
That's true though. You do
yeah,
you use your budget kits to practice this kind of thing.
I used to, sorry. I used to
Uh,
run PP, what is it? The
PP19.
Clin.
Oh, the
The
clean.
Clin. The one that you couldn't put or that you can put the high power cartridge rounds in.
Is that the clean? I think that's the clean. I think the Keda you can't put it in the Keda, but you can
Yeah,
in the clean.
one
I
of
I
the
can't
2.
remember. It's one way around.
Yeah, that was like I mean, I was completely new to the game, but I would, like, buy 20 rounders and load them up with that, and that was like, "Alright, I'm going to factory," and that was like I would, like, kill one guy and then, like, just dart to the extract if I could at good times. But yeah, cool. Should we wrap it up? I think that's
I think so. I
pretty good.
think so. I think that's kind of
Cool.
covered everything that I wanted to cover. Um,
I did wanna mention, quickly, audio listeners, uh, I know we have a lot of you, and I really appreciate you guys tuning in, but if you ever wanna get involved, we would love to hear from you. You can go on our Anchor site, which is if you just Google search Anchor and, ScavTalk, you can find us up, and there's an option there to message, and we would love to hear from you guys and see what, maybe some ideas for some topics or anything you'd like to say to us. We would love to hear from you guys.
it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
we do have some comments on the YouTube and that kind of thing, and it's
Yeah,
always interesting
absolutely.
to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the comments have been great. So really appreciate you guys' support. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for this
awesome, man.
episode, guys.
I think so. I think so.
Cool. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one.
Bye bye.